Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I wanted to create a video just to kind of show you how I create some ambiences for my production stuff that I do. So like, Thall music or deathcore, any of that background ambient sounds that sort of go under your guitars and the production. So I wanted to kind of show you here what I've got for this little skeleton demo thing that I've created. So it's all MIDI, so it's really just bare bones on the instruments. And I've got some production layers here which I've created some stuff, which I'll show you how I made them. And maybe we'll create something new as well. We'll see how we go through this video. So I'll quickly play the demo here so you can hear the sounds that we're working with and how I sort of make them. So that's the little quick thing that I've made there. So it's really bare bones, sort of made in a way that, I could kind of riff over it and create new riffs and stuff like that with the guitars. But that's not really what this video is about. It's just sort of like building that atmosphere just to kind of get some inspiration when you're writing. So that's what I kind of like to do. I like to try and create an atmosphere with whatever sounds. And so a lot of times I can make them through just like lead ambient guitars and make some cool sounds. Like you can hear this intro guitar, which is this lead one here, which sounds like this on its own, which is sort of the main sort of driving factor of this like sort of ambient world sort of thing that I'm building here. So that sounds like this. Basically, how I created that sound is below here. That's bounced down just from this track below here, this lead guitar. So how I created that lead tone or that sort of ambient sound here, I started off with Odin 2, which basically is just a guitar. It's just been captured into like a MIDI instrument. And it sounds like this on its own. So I've just added some MIDI instrument notes here. So just some notes there that kind of like, don't ask me the theory. I just kind of like what I heard in my head. I just kind of chucked them up there. So I'll either use a MIDI guitar like that, or I'll just play my real guitar and kind of come up with some sounds. But in this one, I was just kind of programming stuff. So I just threw some MIDI guitar in there. Next up, I just put it through an amp, and I'm using this lead one here. That's by Nolly. So wild lead. I just picked whatever sounded cool. I didn't even touch the settings, I don't believe, on this. I didn't even realize that I picked this, but I just threw on an amp with some lead tone, and that sounds like this with that on its own. And honestly, that sounds kind of cool on its own. So you could just use that. That's definitely usable. I'd probably even reuse that later on just to open it up. But I've been stacking stuff on here. So then I've got a H delay by Waves, and these are the settings. I don't know how I got to these settings. I just picked eighth note, dotted eighth note there, and it's synced up to the tempo of the song. And it's not 100%, so it's like 35 in the mix. So with that, it sounds like this. Just gives it, I think, a little bit extra there. And then I think what have I got here? I've got Decapitator. I think I just wanted some like sort of color to it. So Decap's on there. Really distorted and ugly. Decapitator always sounds cool, like Distortion, anything. So Saturn 2, Decapitator, any sort of distortion plugins you've got. And it looks like I've got some more delay, repeater. I just kind of like went crazy with the effects on this. I don't know why, but it sounded cool. So just a preset here, a CLA, eighth note delay, another one. This time, for some reason, I've put it to quarter notes, but that sounds like this. Seems like it's sort of like giving it a little bit of a pulse effect with all the other delays. And then I threw on a doubler. I think it's just the basic one. I haven't even touched it. It's just a default setting here. I like that doubler. So it just kind of like throws it out a bit. So it's away. So that's it for that sound. And then I printed that down. So I bounced it down to this, and it's got even more effects on it. So that bounce down version became this. So that printed down version became this print here, and then it looks like I went nuts with it as well with more effects. And so there's some really cool plugins in here, so I'll go over them because you can just use this same sort of method on anything like synths, guitars, whatever you want, samples. So say that's my sample that I created. You can add all these like you'll be mixing, I guess, adding extra stuff here. So I've put even more effects on here. It looks like Supermassive. So I've got this OneKnob pumper by Reese, and it's basically got a rate here which you can change, so you can go down to whatever sort of pulse you want. And I've just set it to what the default is actually, but you can change a few things here. I think I might have changed it to quarter notes, but you can set the rate to whatever you want. And that sort of sounds like this with and without. It's super cool. I like this thing. It just makes it quicker. You can like automate the volume if you want to do it manually, but this is just like an easy solution to do that. So I think there's a few other ones out there by like Slate has one, which is like what they have as well. It's like a ducking thing. So it just pulls down the volume and pumps it back up. Sort of like a sidechain effect. And then we've got Valhalla Supermassive. And these are the settings here. And I love this one called We Are Stardust. And it's in the settings here under any of these massive ones. These are all really cool. And this will like just space out the sound even more and make it so like it's really washed. But you gotta be careful. So I pulled the filter back here just so it doesn't like muddy up the mix a bit. So with that, it sounds like this. That plugin on its own, you probably could just use that. I've used that before just with like a lead guitar. This plugin has so much vibe, and it's free, by the way. Valhalla Supermassive, this one here. These presets here, they put you in sort of like a different world. So really cool. This curves EQ thing, this is just like an auto EQ. I was just kind of trying out to see. So these are basically just EQ settings here, which I won't really go over. That's just sort of cleaning things up, but you can kind of shape that to your mix. But basically, I'm just removing some of the harsh stuff and trying to make it fit and not clash with other instruments that are in the mix. And I've also got this channel strip by Waves, the NLS channel stereo, just to give it some vibe, I guess. And then L1 to control the dynamics and just fit it into the mix and bring it up to the volume. And I just threw Saturn on there, which I might automate for certain parts, which it sounds like this without it, and then I'll add it in. So I've got that there, which I might automate it because this sort of demo is like really dense with a lot of double kicks and it might be hard to cut through. So that I could automate if I wanted to, and if I don't want it to be so crispy, but it sounds cool. And then some more EQ after the distortion, because the distortion is going to bring out more stuff that you're going to need to EQ out of it. And then a doubler again, just to kind of like glue it all back together. So I've got a lot of like effects just to make that sound, and the final result's like this. So that's what it's built off, and that's sort of how I made that sound. So you could use your own guitars, you could use synths, you could use whatever basically, and just like keep bouncing it down and like messing with the audio, and then you can create some unique stuff. But yeah, there's a lot of effects on that. You could probably get there quicker with maybe just a few effects, but the Valhalla Supermassive one really gives it that sort of like that droney background layer, and that's what that's acting as with that sort of pumping effect. And then on top of that, I've got this mean Reese. So this is Anna 2, and this is the preset here. So that sounds like this on its own. So with that one, then I have some EQ. So basically, if you haven't used this, it's like a new wave one. This line here was the EQ that I have, and this white one is what it's trying to match to, and it's sort of like dynamically trying to add the stuff, and you can kind of like adjust the amounts. So it can help, but it can cause problems as well. So let's just be careful EQing it. So got some manual EQ, cleaning up some mud and stuff like that. And that's all there. And then this bottom one is basically the same thing. But when the guitars come in, I've just sort of like moved it further back with this EQ. So basically it's not going to cloud the mix so much. So it's basically the same thing, but when there's no guitars, there's a bit more bass, and you can hear that sort of sub bass more. And then when the guitars come in to this part, there's less of it. So hopefully that makes sense. And then other effects here. So I've got this like clean guitar here. So again, with that, just using the Odin 2 guitar here, which, you know, use whatever MIDI guitar or real guitar you've got, doesn't really matter. And this like preset here, just a quick clean tone. I might change that, but that's just want to get a quick vibe for that there. And then, and this looks like a sub bass thing, but I've kind of panned it off to the side a little bit to get it out of the way. And that sounds like this on its own. I'll just take off the effects. So it's just the bass there that's sort of giving a little bit of energy there. So I've just rolled it off a little bit. I could probably roll that off more. Same with the channel strip, same thing, just to kind of glue it in with the other ones, an L1. And then I've just put a doubler, basic doubler, just to throw it out of the way as well. With all those effects, it sounds like this. And then there's another section here. Another plugin I like to use is this like CR8 by Waves. And it has like a bunch of different presets, and you know, you can like build different sounds, setups, and all sorts of stuff. It's really cool. And you can bring your own samples in there. I've got like, I want to experiment with this more. So it's just a sampler, but that sounds like this. Kind of this weird little effect, but I put Decapitator on it. And another really cool free plugin actually, Raum. So this is by Native Instruments. And you're going to hear how this just like, when you put distortion and then you throw a reverb on it, it just sounds like with synths and stuff like that, It's a really cool trick just to make like any sort of like sub bass or things that sort of like sound really cool. So this is what that sounds like without, then I'll bring it in. So that sounds really cool. Yeah, it just gives it some dimension. And then I won't go through these, but these are just the same channel strips and L1 and then some EQ just to clean it up. So it's not drowning the mix. So that's those effects, and that's sort of the base of the production there, which I'll add more stuff, but that's sort of the way that I'll go about doing sort of effects in the background for ambience. I've got another little section here that I haven't used yet, but I'll play it. It's using some of the same things like the guitar. It's using the Anitu bass and this CR8, which sounds pretty cool. So that's got a vibe to it, and I'm definitely going to use that. Put some guitars over it, some drums. I can feel some drums coming in, and then some chugs, anything. It'd be sound cool. So, or even just have it like a little break between, like an epic part where there's heaps of breakdowns, riffs, and then have that as sort of a transition where it just kind of quiets down for a bit and then builds back up. So you can use all these little different ambient stuff for that. So using those concepts, if I want to just create some like fun noises and stuff like that, here I've just created a session that I was playing with last night, and I just created some sounds. Same deal where I'll like run the amps and then synths and stuff like that, and I'll print them down. So here I've got some sounds that I've kind of made, and you'll be able to see how I go about it, like making with the process of using my guitars. So the way I'll set it up here is I'll have two buses here. So what I've got here is just a heavy amp. This is using the Thall amp, and that's just to, when I'm playing, just to see if these sort of ambient things will fit or how they sound when I'm just kind of mucking around. Then I've got this one here, which is my clean amp, and I'm using Fortin here, clean and ambient, and just, this preset here that's in the settings. And I got some settings and some other things, like I've said, Valhalla Supermassive. So I'll turn on these ones and I'll play some stuff and see how they sound. And I've also got this one here, but this is by Waves, and this is really cool. It's like this drone thing. So it's these gemstones, and then this one here, this solar drone, makes some really awesome effects. So what I'll do is I send this track. You can see I'm sending it to track 3, which is this one here. This is like my record track. What you do is you can drag the little routing icon here, and you can drag it there, and then once you drag it, you can create a send. So then what I'll do is I'll like play through this and arm this, and then I'll record it. That's sort of how I bounce it down, so I can get these effects and like create long tails and stuff like that. And so that's my record track. And once it's recorded, I sort of bring it down here into its own layer. So for example, this is just like a harmonic noise. So that harmonic noise that I did with that method, it basically turned into this. Really cool. It's got those tails. So like as I let it go, I'm just letting that harmonic ring out. And with all those effects, it's sort of just like sustaining for ages. So I've got that. And then same thing, got some more here that I've done, which I think these are actual chords that I played. I did the same thing. So that sounds like this. We'll see what effects are on here. Let's see. We've just got Fort in here. So let's try those chords. They're sort of like some pretty chords. So sort of like invent, animate sort of sounding chords. So let's use those. Let's try turning on Valhalla. So now that was Valhalla. Let's try the gemstones. Sorry, I was vibing then. So that was a little section there. So you can see I was recording. So the clean DI came through here, like I showed earlier. And I've got that there if I ever want to like reamp it and try different things. and then that tone there, which that was cool. I like that. That kind of put me in a little different world there. So thank you for watching. So if you did enjoy this, leave a like and subscribe if you want to see some more content like this. And let me know in the comments if you know any other cool tools or things that are out there for cool ambient sounds with the guitar or synths and stuff like that. I love learning this stuff. Production stuff's really fun for me. So let's share our thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on the next video.